dieron el celular, por llamarlo de alguna manera, a los chicos, creímos sí que ellos iban a poder explorar lo que era, pero no creímos que lo hicieran con tanta facilidad. Nosotros que los conocemos lo vimos muy interesados, atrapados en la actividad y sobre todo había un ambiente de armonía y todos trabajando.
En un principio nos pareció una actividad extraña para que de un día para el otro vengan y nos hagan eso. Nos pareció muy extraño, pero luego cuando fueron proponiendo las actividades nos fue pareciendo lindo, nos empezó a gustar y nos entretenimos mucho con estas 3 horas que estábamos acá.
Sí, empowerment.
We always need to work as a partner. University can do research, which is Stanford University. In this case, I am leading this research of mobile technology for the underserved regions. But I cannot be at every different places. That's why I started to create this network of volunteers, and especially young people who are trying to find a dream in their lives. What would I do? I know how to do computer programming, but what do I do next? And those are the people that I work with. And there are other majoring students, like business students and other majoring students who are interested in doing something for the world peace and prosperity. And those are the students that I involve. And I have Stanford PhD students and doctoral students and master students who are involved in this to evaluate the statistical analysis, etc. But importantly, we need somebody to fund these projects. And often funds come from companies or from ministries. So if we have all these participants from different sectors working together, I think we can do anything we want. So I hope to work with you, with every one of you in this room, and let's stay in touch, and let's change the world. Thank you.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias a Paul por su intervención, por sus aportes, por sus inspiradoras ideas. Vamos a invitar también a Claudia Muñoz, que lo ha acompañado. Sí, me gustaría que vinieras aquí también, porque vamos a abrir un espacio de preguntas. Agradecemos a Miguel Brechner, que se ha incorporado ahora con nosotros a esta conferencia. Y bueno, vamos a abrir un espacio de preguntas, comentarios, deseando que esta no sea la primera vez que viene al Uruguay, sino que sea el inicio de una colaboración que esperemos se extienda por bastante tiempo. Así que dejamos abierto el espacio a preguntas. Sí.
Hi, I wanted to ask you, do you think it's possible teachers will change? That's the main thing, right? Evolve. Will they evolve? Have you tested? What's your proof? Because here I was hearing you and it's very difficult to hear, I think.
Evolution is a long process in many cases. And as we know, education sector is probably the one that takes the most time for any change because of a lot of barriers. But we see champion teachers who want to evolve and then utilize this innovative technology. But my model, as I explained earlier, is to work together with the teachers and students. In other projects, in other models, they exclude students in the deployment. They try to spend millions and millions of dollars to train the teachers first so that they can go to school and then work with these technology. I don't do that. I open up the box and give all these tools to the students on the very first day. And within 15 minutes, students are creating their questions, they're engaged in their own learning, while teachers are watching. That creates a different dynamics for the teachers as well, because they see that students are learning, that they're engaged, they see the value right there. Other projects, they're not sure. So if I learn how to do painting, how do I use this in my physics class or science class? It doesn't show the immediate value for the teachers.
But in our model, where teachers are watching students learning on the very first day, they obviously change their mind. But in many cases, not all, but obviously we have to work with this.
Me again, if no one wants. Sorry. Have you tried it with different ages? Because I'm a preschool teacher.
Oh,
have you tried
of course,
with
from
those?
2-year-old to 17, 18, 19-year-old. And we do this in colleges as well. So I work with all, actually when we were in Michigan, we worked with adults. And then we had a workshop on civic engagement. We gave these devices to the adults to come up with the questions that are important for them. And then we were able to collect very interesting questions from the adult groups as well. So, I mean, there's no age specific for this type of learning.
Thank you.
Good evening. Just one question. If you were to invest in a new IT lab for students from 12 to 18 years old, would you move into mobile, kind of iPads, or would you stay with desktops? Just looking at your graph, the one that said that by 2013 or 14, every access or the access will be changing into mobile labs instead of desktops.
In the future, what's going to happen is that the desktop, the box, will disappear. It's not going to be there anymore. What may remain in the near future is the keyboard that will be talking to this mobile phone, and then maybe you will have a different display. So that desktop computer itself will disappear. Maybe 8 years from now on, the keyboard may disappear as well, because that really limits your creativity, that limits your information generation. Nowadays, audio is becoming a new and more convenient way of interacting with the computer. You will be just talking to the computer while you're watching your text coming alive. So we think that we have to teach kids how to do keyboarding, and that's a very important thing. I don't think so. Keyboarding is just keyboarding. It's just one of many different ways to interact with the computers. So in the future, the technology will be almost invisible. You will not see where technology is. You're going to have a hard time finding where's the chips and devices. But they will be always there somewhere. And then the input and output, those channels will evolve as well. And it will be more pervasive, it will be more convenient for people to interact. So I do not see computer lab.
Thank you very much.
Va a complementar aquí Claudia. Bueno,
específicamente para trabajar con niños pequeños, preescolar, es interesante cómo ellos no necesariamente tienen que saber el abecedario para poder ya interactuar con el teléfono y con las diferentes aplicaciones que tenemos. Entonces ese es otro salto interesante entre la computadora y el teclado, el abecedario, y interactuar con todas las aplicaciones que están además basadas en juegos, ¿no? en lúdicos.
Gracias.
Y en cuanto a lo que le preguntaban de las profesoras, si pueden evolucionar, nos dio muchísimo gusto encontrar profesores jóvenes en el área rural de Misiones y en el área periurbana de Buenos Aires también, que definitivamente decían y gustosísimas quisieran entrar a esta nueva onda porque en realidad, como decía anteriormente al principio de la charla de Dr. Kim, no se necesita realmente unos programas extensos de capacitación docente. Los docentes que quieran tener las ganas de innovar a la par y ser coach, ser entrenadores, facilitadores del proceso de aprendizaje, lo van aprendiendo a la par con los chiquitos.
Okay, hello, nice to meet you. I have two questions. First of all, it would be, since the kids' motivation or the teenagers' motivation is the drive of the projects, how do you select that content in order that to have like a long lifespan? Because maybe if they play with it like for a month or two, they get bored with it. So how do you manage that to be able to develop content and to make it interesting at all times? What's the selection based on?
So how do we come up with the new contents before they lose their interest, right? So how does the game industry work? The game industry. There's always new games released once in a while. Only thing that I don't like about the game industry is that it's all shooting games.
Yes.
It's terrible. If you buy those games for your children, you're a bad parent. Don't buy them. Even if they are so desperate to play those games, that's just a waste of time, waste of their life. So, well, we could use that strategy in our educational content development as well. That's why we need to have the partnership, to work together to create contents that are most meaningful for their local regions. And I'm willing to work with any universities that are interested in this project to continue to develop a variety of different educational contents. I have so many different ways to develop educational contents. It's just that there are not enough people who are interested in doing this, because if they don't see the incentive within it, they don't do it. They don't do it. So again, we have to see what is the value. So how could we get a partnership established with the private sector and the public sector and the research and all these different communities? How do we make sure that there's a value for all these different partners to contribute to make this project successful? So in terms of a continuing of the content development, I think that we have way more than we could possibly develop. It's just that they're not at the right place, and then there is not enough incentive for them to do it. One good example is like an open content initiative. You know, there are various projects out there, like MIT Open Course, and then Hewlett Foundation's OER, and all these things. The bottom line today, what I'm hearing is that first of all, the MIT Open Course contents are not available for those students who really need them, because they can't access them. They don't have internet access. How are they going to access MIT Open Course? So that's an issue. Another issue with the open community is that the contents are not good. There are millions and millions of different types of contents. They are not good. So why are we doing it? You know, obviously, we cannot rely on such incomplete ecosystem. We have to look at the ecosystem and make sure that it's a perfect model. And that's something that we have to do. I do not have all the answers for that, but I have to work with the partners to understand what the local ecosystem looks like, and how do we put all the partners, right partners, to do the right thing.
Sí, buenas noches. Soy docente del área tecnológica, bachilleratos tecnológicos de informática, en el área de lenguaje. ¿Qué costo tiene el móvil y cuánto cuesta el mantenimiento de los mismos?
The cost of the devices are dropping every day. Anyway, I was talking with Argentina Telecom today. Usually the iPhones are sold for like $200 in the United States with a subscription plan. And then what the Argentina Telecom was saying was that we can get a device close to $100. So I guess if I ask that question 6 months later, I think that it's going to be much cheaper too. So I think that the price is going to come down and it will be less than $100, and then that will be fully functional smartphones. Maintenance, you know, we often drop these, right? And then it still work. Some people ask me, how about iPads or big pads? And I think that will work for higher age groups, like college students or high school students maybe. But younger age kids, I wouldn't try pads, because once you drop it, it's gone right there. So we have to look at what is the goal for a certain age group and what is the needs for the education. So we have to have different types of devices for different needs.
Hi. In this mobile ecosystem, there are many species, as you said. One of them are we, the teachers. So I'd like to know, in your experience, how to scale this kind of platform and system, how to teach teachers, 3,000, 30,000, and so on.
What is currently the incentive for these 30,000 teachers to change their behaviors? That is my question to you. What is the incentive for 30,000 teachers to change anything? What is the incentive for that? If you can answer that question, I think we have an answer for your question as well. So again, the ecosystem, I said value. We need to see the value for every constituency in the ecosystem and make sure that we identify the value for the teachers. And I've been sharing some of my thoughts about how do we change the behavior of teachers in classroom is that, if we recognize their best practices and give them recognition for changing their pedagogies or the way that they're handling classroom practices. If we show them the value and also if we provide incentives, and then they will probably do it. And I think that we're going to get into the issues of teacher association, and then they say, we need a higher salary. Salary is not the right kind of and only kind of incentive for teachers. In my opinion, good teachers want to see good student learning outcomes.
Okay, but I would like if you can share with us some experience about how to scale.
Mm-hmm. Scaling up, I think that it's pretty easy in this case. Once we start this project, they see the value. Again, I'm interested in in a model where you refine the project. So my research is called action research. Action research is a cyclical process. You go out, try something, and come back, refine it, remove all the bad practices, and then retain the good practices, and try again and learn from it. So it's a cyclical process. And this process will have a different clock speeds for different regions. Argentina, Uruguay, Mexico, Korea, Japan, I think that it's going to have all different clock speed because there are so many different variables. So I wouldn't be able to answer your question like, how do we best scale this up in Uruguay? I don't understand enough of the context in Uruguay, but I want to understand, I want to learn, I want to participate, and then be part of this change. Sorry, I couldn't give you the answer.
Dr. Kim, I have this question. I'm a little confused. You mentioned the need for students to participate in building their curricula.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you talked about providing the contents for the course. The universities would provide the course.
Mm-hmm.
How much time would that imply? Because as technology changes so fast and the contents change so fast, how much time are we talking about?
I said I want students to be engaged in learning on the very first day. So we already have the platform that's called a classroom learning management system where they can start to use it to create the contents, like questions, the assessment tools on the very first day. But if there are any particular areas that we haven't covered, I don't know, we don't have any good contents, let's say biology, I don't know. So we're going to have to work with the schools or whoever is involved in the project to come up with a sample contents that can work best for that context. So in that case, we might have to specialize in developing the contents. But today, we already have the classroom learning management system that can be used on the very first day. And that's what we have been using in our projects in various countries.
Thank you.
Why don't you refer to ESL?
Oh yeah, we also came up with a new classroom management system. So basically, there's a task-based learning. There is also assessment that engages students in interactions. So we have a different parts of interaction management systems that we're trying to put it all together and then contextualize it for a particular region. So it's going to depend on what they ask. Like, somebody will make a decision about Uruguay or different regions. They say, I think that we need to have more critical thinking education programs for our region. Then we will put together for that region. So, or some other regions may say we need more ESL, English as a second language education. Then we will try to cater our system for their needs. we are not going to develop every grade, every subject content for our country. We do not have the manpower to do it, and I don't think it is something that that is meaningful, because there's many ways to engage students in the interaction and learning activity from the first time.
What's your vision on Khan Academy?
Khan Academy to me is just a YouTube child in the education space, because Ceibal Khan, he was in my office and he was telling me before he got famous, he showed me his vision and all these things, and what I told him is that, you know, this is still traditional education. You watch the video and it's somehow you're supposed to know. It is good for those students who are motivated to go find and learn. But that does not create interactivity, that doesn't promote any creativity, problem solving, or none of that. It's just instructional, like you watch this video and you'll be able to do x squared plus y squared equal what? But we haven't told the students why you have to do that. Where can you use it? How can you think deeply? The Khan Academy doesn't cover any of it. But I think it's good anyway. There are some people who are watching. My wife watches it when she was taking calculus class.
1 million people a month.
Oh, yeah.
There's no other system where 1 million people get engaged, even though it's non-interactive or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's good for those who are seeking such contents. But I do not think that will replace schools or anything like that. That's not advisable.
Me gustaría complementar a la pregunta que le hacía sobre el contenido. En realidad, como decía Paul al principio de la presentación, no solo se trata de qué contenido ponemos en los dispositivos móviles, sino qué tipo de pedagogía usamos. Y creo que esa es la diferencia, porque en contenidos hay un sinfín de contenidos, tenemos open source, tenemos un sinfín de contenidos, y creo que sí es importante la contextualización de los mismos con el socio académico local. Por eso insistimos tanto en eso. Pero al margen de eso es qué hacemos con esto. Entonces, si han podido ver en alguna de las plataformas, el proyecto en realidad trata de generar, es un proyecto de generar en los chicos la intención de cuestionarse. O sea, qué capacidad tienen ellos de hacer las preguntas no solamente correctas, porque efectivamente está bien que se equivoquen, pero de pensar críticamente y poder hacer eso. Y eso a través, entonces, de los dispositivos móviles, al mismo tiempo que pueden evaluarse, ¿no? Evaluar cuál hizo la mejor pregunta, o en grupo, cuál grupo está mejor. Entonces, en realidad de lo que se trata es ni tanto del contenido, porque como lo han visto, están trabajando con los propios textos escolares, no estamos inventando la pólvora en cuanto a contenido. Hoy día son smartphones, ayer estábamos con Teacher Meets y mañana probablemente serán otro nombre. En realidad es el animarse a hacer ese cambio, ese nuevo paradigma en la pedagogía, que es que el maestro se vuelve más bien un facilitador, y el protagonista del proceso de aprendizaje es el niño, el joven, y el profesor simplemente va acompañando ese proceso de aprendizaje,
Good evening, Dr. Kim. I was wondering whether there are any teacher network in place where teachers could share best practice, and maybe we could lower the anxiety that all these changes causes in the teaching profession, because sometimes we forget we're also professional inquirers, and we forget that we need to share best practice to continue growing, and we feel we're isolated, and sometimes sharing our experiences could help.
Absolutely, that's a very good question. And we are in the process of creating a global network of best practices, and then it's actually becoming available in a few weeks. We are working with the company, because all these best practices that take place in various regions around the world, we want to collect them and so that teachers can share them. So we are creating that system right now. So when I come back here, you will be able to see it, and then I'll be more than happy to present how that global best practice sharing network works. So we should stay in touch.
Bueno, sin más, yo creo que ya es hora de dar un poco de descanso y que el Dr. Kim por lo menos pueda durante media hora, una hora, hacer una rápida recorrida a Montevideo porque mañana parte nuevamente para Buenos Aires. Así que le agradecemos nuevamente el haber estado aquí, haber compartido con nosotros su investigación, sus ideas, y muchas gracias a todos ustedes también por las preguntas, los comentarios. Así que bueno, hasta la próxima. Gracias.